How are you?
Great.
It's been such a long time. I haven't seen you in forever.
I
Ever.
know. I was really pleased to hear that you're interested in like finding your way back into the ballet studio.
I am. It's been on my heart for a very, very, very long time. So I'm like, you know what? I have to do it.
So, hello and welcome to Change for the Better: The Power of Arts in Education, episode 48.
Change for the better, and the music made me stronger. Now I'm changed for the better. You were there for me. Community. Now I've changed.
So, here on Changed for the Better, we have talked a lot about lives shifting over the course of time. And sometimes, just when you think you know what you want, the universe pulls you in a different direction. And my guest today also had her own experience in career course correction. Now, in high school, dance classes took the place of gym class. We've talked about that a lot. And even though she loved sports, she also loved being in the dance studio. She was a dance club member, and she really did enjoy performing in our spring dance concerts at the end of the year. And now, as an adult, she misses that easy access to a dance studio because of adulting, being an adult. After high school graduation, she started her college career at RCC, like so many of our kids do. Great program. I highly, highly recommend it. And then she transferred to Hofstra University, where she received a bachelor's degree in sociology. And her original plan was to work with at risk youth in foster care and child welfare. And through that work, she discovered a new passion: advocating for mental health, especially for young people. And at that point, she started to get a clearer picture of what she really wanted. And her gut feeling was to go back to school, went to Mercy College, and she got her master's degree in psychology, which she completed in 2022. Now, she is taking this new direction with vigor. She sees the plan. And right now, she is working as a family foster care supervisor. God bless you. But she has her sights set on taking her education one step further. She is now pursuing doctoral programs in clinical psychology with a focus on sports. So one day we will call her Dr. Joseph. Maybe it'll be Dr. Flo, don't know. But either way, I'm really excited to have her here on Change for the Better to share her story. So, today we're going to start simple and then we're going to start really looking back. And that's the hard part. So, first, we start with what is your name, the year that you graduated, and just tell me a little bit more about where you are now.
Yes, thank you. That was a great summary, actually. Very good intro. And I'm actually excited to talk a little bit more about how I'm shifting right back to ballet, actually, that transparent side of me. So I'm actually excited about that. But my name is Floryane Joseph. And I am currently working at Catholic Guardian Services as a family foster care supervisor. I graduated Spring Valley High School in 2011. Go Tigers. I'm currently in the process of trying to pursue my doctorate in clinical psychology with a focus on sports. I feel like mental health really needs to be a bit more of a constant conversation, and not just amongst athletes, amongst everyone. You know, small trauma, big trauma. I really think it's a conversation that needs to be had. So I found my purpose. I'm going for it. So
We talk a lot on this podcast about mental health and how so many kids start out in high school. And well, then I'll say, in 20 over the last 20 years, They didn't really like know what mental health was. It wasn't a buzzword like it is today. People weren't pushing for therapy as a regular thing. I'm really thankful that it is now a thing, that it is now a focus both in the greater world and in education. And, with social emotional learning, we're sort of trained in that on a fairly regular basis. And so those concepts are more acceptable in
Right.
regular conversation. In Spring Valley, where we have a hugely diverse community and a large Black population, mental health is like not a topic in families that is discussed often or that is accepted. So I'm really happy to be having this conversation
Yeah.
with you.
It's actually interesting that you said that because when I was doing my master's program and I was looking at different researches, what made me be able to figure out my research topic is yes, athletes and mental health. Perfect. And in looking at different literature, I realized that the focus is always elite athletes. It's always elite or collegiate athletes. And that's when I'm like, okay, now I really know what I want to do because sometimes the mental health issue isn't starting at a collegiate level or at a elite level. It could start in high school, it could start in middle school. Like, I'm so happy that now it's becoming more of a conversation because when I was in high school, mental health, what? I just thought there was sad and there was mad and there's happy. And I am happy that it's more of a topic now.
Yeah, yeah. So let's kind of go back. This will kind of get discussed and revisited, in different ways as we're going through these questions. So first, and think of the mental health piece of it as we're doing this, because I think it's a really interesting angle. So first, using your adult brain, describe your adolescent self.
I would say my adolescent self was very free spirited. My adolescent self did a whole lot of pretending. So on the surface, I looked like I was one way. And this is me looking back at it now. So in on the surface, it's like I'm always happy. I'm always just so cheerful. Oh my gosh, she has dimples. She's always so happy. And then now when I think about it, it was just all a facade. It was because, like I said, now I think about it, there were a lot of emotional trauma that I didn't deal with. And as I'm getting older, it's just kind of like, you know, you put it on the back burner and like, okay, you know what, I'll deal with that feeling later. And then as you get older, it's piling up, it's piling up, and it's just kind of like, boom, now you have to deal with it. Now it's just a little bit harder to deal with. So yeah, I would definitely say I wore a very good mask when I was younger, definitely. And as I'm getting older, and I want to say a little bit more wiser, I'm okay with taking that mask down and being my true self for sure.
Yes, the authentic self, right?
Yeah.
we all talk about the authentic self and, what does that actually mean? And sometimes it means you're just not like really feeling it today. And instead of putting that mask on, you are like letting other people see that this moment I'm really not that okay.
Yeah.
And we all need to be okay with not being okay. Especially in those moments of not really being always okay. What was something that happened, like, in the dance studio when you were in those classes that helped you to manage or to regulate your adolescent self?
I kind of want to associate one with the others. So, just a quick backstory. I actually, before doing ballet or, tapping into the dance studio in high school, I did not want to dance ballet at all. So, it's funny. In high school, it's kind of like being presented the opportunity to do something that I thought was like, "Ah, I'm over it." Um, I love dancing from when I was little. Absolutely loved it. And my parents made me do ballet. They saw me dancing in the living room. They made me do ballet, and they were like, you're gonna go to a dance studio," and I did. And they moved me up once they saw that you're a little too advanced for a beginners class. push you up. So they put me up. And throughout my whole ballet career, I had the same teacher. And she pushed me in ways that I didn't think that could be pushed. She even called me grandma because she knew that she's like, I know you could do better, but you just want to be lazy. And she wasn't lying. So she called me grandma every time she wanted to push me. Long story short, she passed away, and I'm just kind of like, I'm done dancing, like, because now who's gonna push me? She was that voice that was pushing me. Fast forward to high school, I'm signing up for classes. There's dance as a gym option. And I'm just going back and forth with myself. Like, no, I'm not doing it. But I was like, well, I think it's going to be an easy A flow. Like, maybe you should do. So I was struggling with that emotion. That's that mask again. I was struggling with that emotion. I was kind of like, oh, whatever. I'm gonna do it. So now I'm in dance studio, and I feel like the energy was just so refreshing. It was so refreshing. I kind of feel like you kind of presented the same way she did in believing in all of your students. And that kind of made me feel better. It definitely cushioned the blow a lot. So, every day I showed up, and you gave everyone that push. You gave everyone like that belief that whatever dance position it was, I haven't been in ballet in so long. I don't think I remember the names of them anymore.
That's okay.
But for sure, you definitely push everyone to believe, like, whatever, if they were beginners, advanced, intermediate, you definitely let everyone believe that they could do it. And you allowed like such a fun space. So everyone is able to just have fun and be their self. So that made me kind of fall in love with ballet all over again. So,
Yay. Now we got to get you back in as an adult. It's a
ooh,
an experience.
uh-oh.
Our bodies just don't do what they could do when they were
I
children.
know. I definitely feel that.
And it's funny because I haven't taken a dance class. I mean, it could be like 10 years since I've actually gone in and taken a dance class. I do other things, but that discipline of walking into a dance studio and getting to the bar and going, okay, here we go. What is the body going to do for us today?
Yeah.
Totally different experience.
Oh
But
yeah. I'm excited to find out though.
it's great because it's all about you focusing on you.
Yeah.
Yes, there's the piece of like, oh, what's that person doing? What's that person doing? But I think as an adult, especially who understands mental health and you understand the necessity to, go within and be mindful and be present in what you're doing, I think that's going to be a really valuable activity for you when you do finally get back into it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to that experience that I'm so thrilled that it was a good one. What are some of the lessons that you learned there in the studio or in performance that you think about or use today?
Routine. Life is like a dance routine. Life is literally like a dance routine. You could go into class and your dance teacher is going to show you a routine the next day. We're going to change it through a curveball. So you finally got the dance move down pat, and it's just kind of like, okay, now I got to relearn another one. I feel like the reason why I also say routine is I'm going to dance one way, and then the person next to me is going to dance a different way. But that doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong. So it's just focusing on yourself, how you're performing. When you see that big mirror in front of you, it's more so like, don't look to how she's doing her plie, focus on how you're doing your plie. Same thing with life. This person may seem ahead of you, but this is your own race. So I use the concept of a dance routine throughout my life because I feel like that is one thing I definitely take away from it. I compare the two together.
And the process of learning too in a dance studio, there are certain structures that you follow, sort of global structures that you follow that helps to make that process happen wherever you are along the line. I've always felt it very comforting to know, you walk into a studio, you take your shoes off, you find your place, you do the warm up, then you learn whatever the new thing is. And it's very centering.
Yeah, I actually remember after high school, I did ballet in RCC too. I'm telling you, you said, you gave me that push to keep on doing it. So I did it again in RCC. And it's definitely different because now we're in college where this is some people's majors now. So this is something that they do and this is something that they focus on. Whereas to me, I'm like, I'm just doing this for fun, but still skilled, but still for fun. And using the analogy I did about the routine, I remember there was this girl who we were doing bar exercises, and my younger self was able to be very flexible. I was able to bend and stretch in all kinds of ways. And she, what's it called when you dance ballet? After the bar, you kind of do like the cross routine.
Or across the floor.
Yeah, across the floor. And she danced beautifully. And so now I'm comparing myself to her. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta dance beautifully. And I'm doing it. And I'm just kind of like, another person looking at me is like, wow, you dance beautifully. But to me, I'm like, but I'm not dancing like her. So I'm not doing this beautifully. So it's just, I had to work on that kind of mindset to, to remind myself that that was her routine. That's how she dances. And it's beautiful. I have the way I dance. And it's just as beautiful. It's the same thing with life.
I was, of course, scrolling through social media. I think it was Instagram or something. And somebody had posted that while you might think that something that you do or that you post is kind of like not all that much, somebody else is looking at it and thinking how inspired they are by your stuff. And I have to try and remember that sometimes because we all have that imposter syndrome. We all like think, the terrible lies about ourselves and to embrace the things that you're doing that you are good at and getting better at is really valuable for us. And just remembering that somebody out there is watching and is inspired by what you're doing.
Oh, I learned that. I sure did. I'm definitely learning that. I used to tell myself that my voice is like very much this small. It's kind of like, even when I started this, and I'm pretty sure we'll get more into it, but like my psych page, as I'm going through like my doctorate journey, and I post like little things and little tips. I promise you, I'm like, oh, my friends are just double tapping because they're just my friends. And I actually was told from somebody that I totally didn't know. He was like, I really love your post. I love what you're doing. And he just kind of like, I wish I had someone when I was playing sports telling me the same things. I probably would have still been playing sports. And that made me feel good. Like all the challenges and adversity I faced, it made everything worth it. I'm like, oh, that one person. I'm like, I don't care if it was that one person my whole life, but the fact that that one person heard me, yeah,
And it's definitely more than one person because oftentimes, people will scroll, they'll see something, it will go into the back of their minds and then they'll scroll, but it will marinate in there for a little bit. So
yeah,
one could actually be 10 or 30 or 100.
right, right,
No, because they don't speak up.
yeah.
So now we've kind of reflected on you as an adolescent. Now moving forward, how do you think that you've changed since you graduated high school?
I think I've allowed myself to be more vulnerable. And in being more vulnerable, I'm able to be my authentic self. I'm able to accept that life isn't perfect. And you may have a plan in your head, and there's going to be many, many, many curveballs, and that's okay. And letting myself feel. So I did a very good job. I promise you, I probably had a PhD in it. I did a very good job at feeling something and like, putting it to the side. But I think now as I'm getting older, I'm not perfect at it, but I'm allowing myself to feel the emotions that I'm feeling and not avoid it, but go through it. So I definitely think I changed in that way for
That's a
sure.
really hard thing to come by. I would say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I started, doing therapy, and now I do it sporadically, but at the time, we were going through some really difficult things, and a lot of the lessons that I learned through that process, I was just like, "Wait, I have to, acceptance," and, there was something that she said was, "The antidote to anger is compassion." And I was like, how can you be compassionate towards something that you're like that really just makes you super angry, you know?
Yeah.
But these are the lessons that everybody needs to learn. Everybody, and I look at myself as a pretty, whatever, understanding, open-minded person, and even I had a hard time embracing some of those concepts until they were like, hammered into my head. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I feel like I honestly didn't realize the impacts that losing my ballet teacher had on me until I was probably going old. Like I was growing older. I knew when she passed away, instantly, of course, I'm going to cry. I'm going to, oh my goodness, like instantly, someone that you're close with passed away. But I never really, I guess, understood the impact it had on me and how I am growing to be older. For all I know, I probably could have been um, a famous dancer. I don't even know. But I remember going to Radio City, the
you
Christmas
know,
the Christmas show, and my mom whispered to me, she was like, I wish this was you. And I was like, ooh. Now I'm allowing myself to feel these emotions because my mom did love me playing ballet, I promise you. But to me, I'm thinking I'm just doing it just to pass time. And of course, I'm good at it. And it's something to do after school. But as I grew older, I now lost my teacher. I'm just now realizing that, I'm dealing with those emotions as I'm getting older because I put them on the back burner. You know what I mean? So now I'm allowing myself to feel. So no matter what happens, whatever, any adversity that I face, I allow myself to feel it. I have to feel it. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry, but just let yourself feel it. Don't. Lie to yourself. I'm learning that. I'm definitely learning that.
what would your adult self tell your high school self now to help ease the way?
I want to say take your time.
Mm.
Um, because I definitely think I was trying to rush through everything, like not even thinking. If I were to take my time, I would have made smarter decisions. But that's a riddle of life, right? So I didn't know that then, but I know it now. I definitely would say, allow yourself time to think about any and every decision you make. But it's hard telling a younger person that. It definitely is. It makes more sense when you're older. So in a perfect world, the younger person would accept that advice. Like little Floryane would have definitely been like, but I definitely would say take your time and allow yourself to think through certain decisions and choices that you're going to make.
Yeah. Do you feel like the mental health piece, because maybe some of the rushiness of, the adolescent brain is because they're either trying not to feel the things that they feel, or they don't feel like they are allowed to feel the things that they're feeling?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's both because when I was in high school, starting dancing ballet in the studio again, later on in my high school career, I tore an ACL from playing basketball. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting on a roll with ballet. I enjoy ballet, I enjoy dance, but I'm very active and I was very athletic. I was playing basketball. Ballet helps with everything. It helps with coordination, it helps with balance. I feel like in preparing for a big game,
Mhm.
tearing my ACL, all those feelings are coming right back. I'm like, oh my goodness. And younger me is not dealing with the emotions. And now I'm not dealing with the emotions. And trust me, if I knew in learning what I'm learning in sports psychology, there's so many things I would have done differently. But I'm not dealing with my emotions. Now I'm only just focusing on my recovery. And I had the best athletic trainer, okay? The best because he had me walking like this, okay? And I wasn't worried about the recovery, but I was also trying to rush the recovery too. So in everything that I was doing, it was a rush because, like you said, I didn't want to feel it. I didn't want to go through it. I'm just kind of like, can we just get this over with? So I didn't even deal with emotions. That was emotions. Nah, I'm not gonna deal with that. I'll deal with that later. But with the recovery, I had to deal with it now because I need to walk. So I'm like, all right, I'll deal with the recovery, but now I'm trying to rush it. I'm like, how quick can I walk? How quick can I run? How quick can I bend? What can I do next? And it was just kind of like that was the one thing that it was hard for me to rush simply because my body has to do its thing.
Mm.
And it was so many feelings that it just, I felt it at once after high school because I got injured my senior year, actually. So, in me not taking my time, allowing myself to feel, going through the emotions, there's decisions that I didn't properly make and that I'm feeling it now.
And so that injury affected your ability to play at all
Basketball,
later on.
everything. Yeah, I was out for the year. I tore my ACL in December and I didn't have a full range of motion until June, July, something like that. But yeah, it definitely impacted it. And you can't rush recovery. Let me go on record and say that.
Mm.
The recovery was one thing that humbled me. I was like, yeah, I tried to rush it, but that
And your
wasn't happening.
body's saying, "No, sorry."
Yeah, nice try.
Especially an ACL, like the ACL tear is just, oh.
Yeah.
So this is often a tough question. Tell me something that you're grappling with now.
Oh, so many. I definitely want to say this is probably going to sound like I'm going backwards, but I think I still am struggling with accepting that things aren't happening on time, right? And what I mean is, I feel like I'm like, all right, well, I'm about to be a certain age. And when you're younger, you see a life that's going to happen. And as you're going through life, it's not happening. So now it's just kind of like playing with your emotions. It's just kind of like, am I late? Am I delayed? Is it gonna happen? Is it not gonna happen? So I'm definitely trying to find ways to remind myself that it's okay. It's gonna be okay. And it's gonna happen. If it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. I just remind myself that like graduating undergrad, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a social worker. I'm going to work in child welfare and I'm going to love it. I'm going to live a happy life. Right. And then now I have to remind myself that, like, well, let's just say it did happen like that. Would you have been happy? So it's just kind of like that plan that I have to tell myself this all the time. The plan that I had in my head was a rough draft. As I'm going through life, the final copy is going to come, but it's just going through that routine that I was saying, so the routine's going to keep changing until the recital. And then it's just kind of like when the recital comes, it's like now you're living in your purpose. Because at once I thought I wanted to be a social worker and I want to stay in child welfare. But now I'm realizing, and I could surely say that sports psychology is where I want to be. So I have to remind myself that, like, the plan that I had in my head, it's okay that it doesn't happen.
I like to call it a work in progress.
Yeah.
We are works in progress. And I try and make that a practical lesson, in class where we're creating something and it's not a forever thing, but we're like making this happen and it's not finished yet. But this is our work in progress. We're like learning how to work within a process. And it will take us from, point A to point B, but then there's like 50 other points that we're going to reach at some point. We don't know what direction that's going to go, but I think that having the mental flexibility to say to yourself, well, this is where I am now, but that may not be where I'm going to be, in a year or two or three or whatever. So I think it's very bold and brave of you to be honest with yourself and to
Right.
say, this was good for me, but this revealed something much more purposeful for me. So,
Yeah. And that's why I'm happy I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable. And well, vulnerable with myself first. And I allow myself to be vulnerable in front of people because I feel like there's definitely power in vulnerability for sure. But even though I know a lot of people struggle with that, but in me being vulnerable, it helps me accept change and changes that are coming.
it's almost like we're sort of bracing ourselves, but gently bracing ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, change is gonna happen. And as a young kid, I had the worst time with change. I was like, no, it's supposed to be here. It's supposed to be like this and go and change. No, they can't go there because I have to be here, you know?
Yeah, definitely. One of my professors, I would never forget, and it's such an old saying, but I guess I heard it later on in life. There's joy in the journey, not just the destination. And I live by those words so much. So the more I fell in love with the journey, the more I trusted the process, the more I'm okay when the change comes. I'm okay when change does come because I'm falling in love with how things are happening because it's making me better. It's making me stronger mentally.
Yeah.
So
It's like reaching landmarks. You're not, or milestones in the course of your life. And you can absorb that things are different because that's you're gonna become, a different person in that journey.
yeah.
I want you to tell me one thing that you miss about your high school self, and then you're gonna tell me one thing that's gotten better since you grew up.
Oh, what do I miss about my high school self? I think I was a lot more free spirited.
Mhm.
Um, I was definitely more open minded in high school. Definitely a lot more open minded. That probably comes from my adult self being more cautious and understanding consequences that I probably didn't understand in high school. I was able to just relax and just have fun, and I was definitely more free. So for sure,
Mhm. And then what is something that's gotten better in your eyes?
vulnerability for sure. I'm able to be more honest with myself. I'm definitely able to. In high school, I had a hard time being emotional. If I was in a classroom and I wanted to cry, I'd probably ask for them to sign my agenda so I could go to the bathroom and I could cry. And I couldn't even boo hoo cry. I'd have to, like, like the silent cry when the tears are just coming down. But sometimes you want to ugly cry. Yeah. I I had a hard time with being real with how I was feeling in every moment. That I felt like I had to be a certain way. So if everyone knows me as being fun, I have to be fun. And then when I go home, all right, whew, take this mask off, and then now I could. So as I think as I've gotten older, I've been more true to my emotions.
It's good. If you could give a piece of sage advice to high school students now, what would that be?
I hope this doesn't sound cheesy, but I truly seen so many benefits for myself in writing your thoughts down. Good, bad, positive, whatever is going on in your head, even if it when you're writing it down, it sounds like mumbo jumbo, write it down. And because it'll make sense to you. It's like your own everyday therapy. So writing down your thoughts and writing down action steps. And in writing action steps, give yourself a realistic timeline. Don't be married to the timeline, um, because you want to allow yourself that wiggle room. So if I wrote down my action steps, I give myself a 6 month timeline. And in 6 months, when I'm writing my thoughts down and I didn't reach or I didn't accomplish some of those action steps, add it to the next 6 months action steps. So in writing those thoughts down, it's just kind of like you're being real with yourself and no one else has to see it. So you're being real to you and you're listening to you. So that is the one thing that I would say because that has helped me.
And in that respect, what are like 3 self-care practices that you do now to help regulate or center yourself? Mm.
I love this question. The reason why I love it is because in going through my master's program, I was forced to look for techniques that could help athletes. And I'm like, this could be for performers and non-performers. And I took my own advice. I'm like, well, if I see this is backed by research, then I have to try this. So, with that being said, I practice imagery a lot. I practice imagery, and I practice being mindful.
Mm.
So 30 minutes out of my day, I don't care how busy it is, I don't care what I'm doing. I allow myself 30 minutes at least, at minimum, to practice a mindfulness exercise and doing imagery. So I just sit to myself, quiet, nobody around, and it could be anywhere. Sometimes I take my car because I'm a very big nature kind of person, so I like a nice view. So if there's somewhere like by a pier, I'll probably park my car if I have to get away from anyone, cock my chair back, and I will be silent and I will imagine like those action steps I had put for myself, and I would just practice imagery.
Mm.
I use self talk a lot. So I feel like it's easy for people to practice negative self talk because it's so much easier, but it requires so much work to use positive self talk. So I use positive and motivational self talk so many, like through everything. And it's not even just, it started off with me using it from when I'm working out with like a trainer, but I use it with everything. If I have a conference call and I'm presenting, I feel like everybody gets like nervous. Like, oh my God, it's a conference call, you know? I give myself that positive self talk. I use motivational self talk when I'm working out. Like, okay, Flo, you know, you could do this. You know, bend your knee like this. Just breathe through it, Flo. Like, I practice that a lot and that helps me. I don't know if I could think of a third one, but those are the two that journaling, mindfulness, being by yourself, practicing self talk. There's just this one thing, but it kind of goes all together. The concept of controlling the controllable. So there's a lot of things that we can't control. There's just a lot, and like I said, it's easier to focus on things that you can't control, and then now that's forcing you to just lose confidence in everything. And these are things that we tell our athletes, or I'm speaking like I'm a psychologist now, but in
Hey.
literature,
Mhm.
I see that that's a lot of stuff that, you know, like they tell like their athletes, but anyone anyone uses this. So it's just kind of like in writing your thoughts down. See, everything goes together, but in writing my thoughts down, I'm able to focus on like comb through everything that I wrote and focus on the things I can control, you know? So it definitely boosts up my confidence. And in boosting up my confidence, I'm a little bit more better to like try again and keep going.
It makes it concrete. It forces you to, like, look at the words on the page and going, "Oh, this is what I'm grappling with right now."
Yeah. And I feel like writing it down allows you to remember. So today's Thursday, right? So today's Thursday. And if I don't write how I'm feeling today, right? For example, like if today I had a tough day, so many things had happened, got two tickets, I don't know, lost my job. If I don't write those thoughts down, let's say next Monday comes, I'm still feeling the feelings from last Thursday. It's just kind of like now I'm more angry. I don't know which one to focus on, you know? So now I forgot about Thursday. Now I'm focusing on Monday's problems. But when you have Thursday through Monday's problems, you now know how to control those feelings.
Right, right, and they don't stack up on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, I'm so glad that we had this talk because this mental health thing, like I said, has come up so often throughout the course of this podcast. And I almost feel like we really can't talk about it enough, that there has to be more normalization because every human being has feelings. Every human being like needs to find ways to express them in healthy ways. And that those are skills that need to be taught and need
Right.
to be talked about. So by, you talking to me here and posting on your social media some of those tidbits and, hopefully someday opening that practice.
Yes.
Dr. Flo.
Yes, that is definitely the long term goal. I definitely wanted to add in talking about mental health now. I think a long time ago, I don't think people understood mental health
Mm.
in its whole full entirety, but I think people just thought like, I didn't have trauma. You know, I grew up in a great household with two parents and I wasn't in foster care or whatever, so I don't have trauma. There, mental health, no. I don't think people understood it more, and then it's just kind of like in talking to yourself or talking to someone, a stranger in the bus stop, whichever, in talking about those thoughts that you have in your head, you realize you have trauma that you never thought you had, and that's why. you probably act or you feel or you do the things that you do. You know, a lot of times we focus on the what, but not the why. And the why is what holds so much weight. So once you figure out the why in just about everything, you'll realize that whether it's big or small trauma, you are battling with some mental health issue nonetheless, you know?
Everybody, and you're right. It doesn't matter that you could have, somebody who's well off and all their needs are taken care of, but there's something in there that is affecting them in a negative way. And it could be a way that they're treated or a way that they're disregarded or whatever it is, everybody's got it. And
Yeah,
so instead of us like hiding from it and going, no, no, I'm fine, everything's just fine, everything nothing to see here, just be like, okay, here's my stuff, deal with it, and then we can move on and we can live our lives well.
acceptance.
Ex ah, there's too much that too many people need to learn about, and we need good teachers to teach that stuff.
For sure. For sure. I agree. Give me a few years, I'm there.
You're already doing it. You're already on your way. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Flo, for coming and sitting with me, your old teacher, and sharing so much about yourself. I think that everything that you've talked about is really valuable, particularly for our young people out there. So, young people, if you're listening, to be a doctor someday, you can call her Dr. Flo. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tune in next week for Change for the Better, The Power of Arts in Education, episode 49. We're like almost getting to the end of the fourth season. But thank you once again.
You're welcome. No problem.
Ah.